Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot and welcome to our Sunday reading. So, getting in here on the last day of the weekend, we're looking into the week, but we also are going to do a little bit of a deep dive into divine masculine messages because of all of the things that came up yesterday, and it felt like we needed to get into that. As I was wrapping up the extended, I realized that was probably the topic for today, and my meditations this morning really reinforced it. So off we go. We're going to go ahead and take a look at divine masculine messages and then see I want to dive a little bit more into you and your messages as well. So this will be a general reading for this collective, as always. If it resonates with you, check out some of the other readings because they're all very much connected. So, if you like it, go ahead and hit subscribe. Maybe consider joining as a member. Gets you a little bit of early access to the readings. So as soon as they get done uploading, plus then there's a level that gives you discounted monthly readings on the personal side. So I'm going to read for you with the Mythic Tarot. And then I have the Baroque Tarot. And then we've got the Shaman's Dream when it comes time for the Oracle cards. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start by taking a look with the Mythic Tarot here and just understanding a little bit of this energy that we've got going on. So yesterday was a lot of bouncing back and forth energy. It was like this nice, confident, calm, real confidence that all of a sudden hits a wall and becomes real panicky, and then all of a sudden it bounces back and forth. So let's take a look at today's energy and just sort of see what direction things are going and if things have started to settle. We have the moon in the reverse. Sounds like there isn't more information yet with which to make decisions. However, and it keeps coming out that way here in the last few days. With the moon, it is exposing information, but it is not, and where that's coming from, it's exposing information, but it's not exposing a sufficient amount for you to really make a ton of educated decisions. There's a need to make decisions, and some of them feeling a little more rushed than others. You keep being told not to rush, but there's also a need to have timing with some of the decisions. With this, it's constantly, hey, you don't have enough information. We've got the Strength card in the reverse, a little bit of a sense of being surprised by some things, not really expecting that, but maybe being a little bit more surprised by some of these new perspectives. So this is the Hanged Man, which often represents new perspectives, but I'm definitely getting a sense of surprise out of this, or wasn't expecting things to be exactly like what you're seeing. So that's going to be true for both of you. This is a shared energy, and it's just kind of that energetic and emotional backdrop. So it's that energy that you guys are in, what you're swimming around in. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of information, but not clear pictures that are necessarily forming. So it feels like there's some surprise here, particularly about person or people. That's what that imp feels like, that Hanged Man. And with this card, so with this deck, with the Mythic Tarot, a lot of times you've got some other concept that comes along with it. So with the Hanged Man, we also have the Imp. For example, with the Strength card, we had the Manticore. The Moon had the Werewolf, perhaps predictably. There's a lot of changing energy, like it's changing around you, changing around them. So that back and forth energy that they were feeling yesterday, and that seemed like it was really coming out a lot, I don't know that that exactly surprises me. I do see a lot of an ability to use what you've learned. And so this feels a little bit like a Three of Swords in the reverse in that regard. But with the Nine of Swords in the reverse, it feels like understanding that that things are going to have to land somewhere, and that there's going to have to be some sort of change. Also coming to terms with the realization that something will not be like it was. So remember, there's been some recommendation for you to work through third-party issues on your end, whatever that means. That could be job related, it could be social, it could be something happening in your household. Those are usually the main places where you find those third-party energies. But remember that they're not always a person. Sometimes it's really kind of a broader energy. It involves many people. There's been recommendation for you to work through things that are happening on your end, as well as some pretty significant shifts that have been happening on their end. And so this is almost like finding a space of calm in the middle of a lot of wind and wildness, but it is not exactly eye of the storm energy, or at least I'm not sure that's what I'm seeing. There's a lack of balance here, which is kind of what gives me that it isn't the eye of the storm. And the Page of Pentacles, this is a calm before something that kind of sets both of you off. Maybe there's a sense of some significant triggering that is, it's going to happen. But here's the thing, if you've learned nothing else from the rest of this experience, it's that you can be triggered and then the next day realize that you're able to rely on some places where you've experienced growth and be able to say, okay, so I'm starting to resolve part of what happened yesterday. So it's a fast moving environment because that triggering doesn't necessarily last. I think this one gets you though. I feel like it's a matter of you have to figure out how to switch some things around. It's not simply a matter of reorienting or redirecting something simple. There's something here that is creating kind of a roadblock. It's a sense of a roadblock, but this is not the attitude of a person who is stopped by a quick roadblock. With the Hermit, though, it does appear a little bit like you're stumped, or they're stumped, or maybe the both of you are sitting there in a situation like, well, I'm not sure. We're at a bit of an impasse. There's a sense of an impasse, blockage in the road, not quite sure how to move forward, but it's not the sort of attitude that is easily defeated. And there's something really great here about that. So it's going to create places where you see reconciliation that maybe you never really expected. People coming together that you didn't really expect to see coming together. People overlooking differences that you didn't think they would necessarily be inclined to overlook. And maybe they weren't inclined to overlook them, and now they're in a place where they say, oh, I've grown, you know. It's not just you and your divine masculine that are doing growing, or that are learning lessons and growing. It's also people around you. There's a whole lot of change happening in a lot of people's worlds, and it's creating necessity for growth. It's also allowing people to reach into growth that they've already experienced but have never really had much of a chance to use. So you're going to see some of that, and that's going to create some of that rekindling of relationships that maybe just haven't thought of in a while. So this has almost that sense of people coming back, but it doesn't feel like for any specific purpose. It almost just feels like it's coincidence, happenstance, running into people you didn't necessarily expect to run into. But it seems like there is a lifting of the spirits that happens as a result of this, though. I don't know if it's as a result of this or just something that's happening in general, but there's a lifting of spirits and a feeling alive despite this roadblock. There's something here that feels a little bit more like things are moving in a way that they were previously feeling a little bit stagnant. We have the Empress, though, the Empress and the Ace of Wands. So with the Ace of Wands, this is definitely a sense of feeling silenced or being silenced in some way. It feels instead not necessarily like being silenced, but more like having to stop and allow somebody else to talk and then being able to say your piece. So it's not being silenced so much as managed, but it feels like it gets taken kind of hard. So if it's you, for example, and this is an energy that's just sort of out there, but if it's you, it may be that you're talking about something and someone else kind of stops you so that another person can say what they want to say and then says, okay, go back to what you were saying. And it feels like it's disjointed or not very it's not a smooth thing. That's kind of what this feels like, although it is a sense of perceiving being silenced, even if it's more temporary than that, but it's still rude. It feels rude. It feels like there's a sense of rudeness to it, so be aware that that's in the air. We've also got the Empress, a lot of not being quite ready for concepts that are coming out. And so it's not necessarily that people can't handle them or won't be able to handle them. It's a matter of it has taken this surprise that we see here in the Hanged Man is not unique to you. This is something that's kind of going to be people that you run into on the street will also be exuding a lot of this type of energy. And so that's an interesting thing. And it's especially interesting with that Judgment card in there and that card of reconciliation with people that you haven't seen in a long time. Not even necessarily that there was something to reconcile, just time, just distance, haven't seen them in a long time. And then you run into people again and it rekindles energy in you, even if it does not rekindle a relationship, even if it's one of those situations where you come together and say, hey, we should get together sometime, and then you don't get together. You've awakened something in one another that just reminded you of something that you needed, and the same with that person. And that could be a random person from your past. That does not have to be anybody that has significance going forward, or even great significance in the past. It's just enough to kind of rustle up some older energy for you, older but more useful than you might think. So let's do this. Let's get some divine masculine messages. We're looking at it, and this is energy that provides some context, so you see what kind of world they're experiencing. But we also have some details from some of the previous readings. Of course, yesterday with them bound that sense of bouncing back and forth. Sorry about that. That nervous, panicky energy that they kind of had, and then every once in a while they would be like, no, I've got this, and they would have this confidence, and then they would hit a wall and go hide again. I mean, that's something that was not necessarily new to them, but the rapid cycling, the way that it was happening so quickly was different, and they're able to see it too. So that sense of judgment in the other sense, that self-judgment has been showing up. There's an increasing amount of awareness of themselves. So we have the Chariot. Well, they're feeling the roadblock too. And this is something that they would tell you, but feel like they have to keep quiet about it for some reason. There's something that they are trying to protect, or feeling like they have a need to protect. 10 of Wands in the reverse. They've lost control of their situation. There's something here that they've lost control of. They need to protect it, and that's part of what's keeping them quiet. They feel like their hands are tied, and that is part of why. That's like the first, these are main messages. And of course, the main messages are typically what comes out with the main deck, but these are like underlying messages. And Two of Swords, there are certain things that they can't do right now, and they end up feeling a little bit divided on, quite frankly, because of the way that it's been presented to them. This feels almost like they're being threatened, but not by the third party in this sense. This is a different type of threat, but they're being kept quiet in some way. And I feel like that is maybe interaction with some third party energy, the fact that they are being kept quiet. The thing that's keeping them quiet, not necessarily third party energy, but I feel like there's some threat in there and holding something that feels very heavy. They have a desire to communicate this to you, but it doesn't feel like they, it feels like they can articulate it. It doesn't feel like these are messages that are way below the level. They want to start someplace completely new. There's something completely new that they want to try. So rather than, there's always been this sense of wanting to go back to some place with you, like some previous experience that the two of you had it sits in their mind as one of the most wonderful memories. And they usually have wanted to do that, but this feels like opening a new door, going to a new place. And with the Six of Swords, that is a sense of clarity that feels like it comes to them whenever they think about it. So when they think about you, you are like their, when someone tells you, if you're meditating and you're doing some kind of guided meditation, they tell you to go to your happy place, and maybe you pick the beach, or maybe you pick some place that you were on vacation, you were really relaxed, or, this person picks you. They pick something with you. That's interesting, because that's not always been relaxing. Sometimes that's been a place of really kind of getting them awkward and agitated, but it's still, there's a sense of comfort and just being able to be themselves that they feel like they aren't able to do in a lot of other places. So with the Four of Pentacles, there's a sense of, it's almost like resentment that shows up here. They feel resentful about their environment, but don't feel like they're in a position to say very much about it, because they have to keep quiet about something in order to keep something safe. It could be their household, it could be something that's happening at work. They have to keep quiet about something that they would rather tell you about and confide in you about. They don't feel like they have control. So we saw that with the Chariot in the reverse, that sense of feeling like they've lost control, or feels like they're losing control slash have lost control with the way the Ten of Wands comes out. With the Strength card, that kind of confirms it. And then we've got the King of Swords, which again comes out feeling like there is not a good plan to reestablish that control. So this is someone who feels like it could be they're losing their job and they don't think there's any better way to handle this than the way that they're handling it. They're looking for something different, but they kind of feel like they can't talk about it because it's going to create a problem for them in a social setting or some kind of work sort of. You may, if you work together, that could be especially true. We have the Hierophant, so there's a sense of them feeling like they would love to talk to you just to get your insights, just to get some idea of what you think about the situation. Because remember, this is a person who is almost intimidated by your ability to handle the situation and make it look almost effortless. And so they're wanting to ask your advice on something that they feel like you might be able to provide really good advice, because they're just not happy. They're not happy with the situation where they find themselves. But, well, I guess I could have waited for that to come out. That's them not being happy. That's the Nine of Cups in the reverse. So if the Nine of Cups in the upright is wish fulfillment, what I'm seeing here is not just I'm not happy, but I thought this was a place of wish fulfillment. And what I'm discovering is that it is kind of far from it. There's something here that's upsetting them on a level that they've not shared with you. And in fact, maybe they've indicated the opposite. So maybe on social media, it looks like something is very positive, where when you look more deeply into it, it's really, that's not the way they feel about it. There is a deep desire for them to go completely rogue, to go completely off script, and they are tempted at this time very strongly to take you with them. So what in the heck does that mean? That was usually when I'm super curious about something like that, we end up taking it into the extended. But I can't be the only one that's curious about that. Like, they have this is a strong desire. It feels like that Ace of Pentacles, only it's got a real wild edge to it. It's got a desire to take you off, like where no one would think to look for either of you. It's not like kidnapping. It's not that kind of vibe. I mean, it feels like if you didn't want to go, they would just be sad and wish you were there. But yeah, there's a sense of wanting to do something completely unconventional. They're realizing that they have not been able to get you off their mind, and they're it's almost like just finally they've given up completely, and it's not a gentle motion. It's a harsh realization. No, I'm just ready to go do something different, and I would like to take you with me. And it's almost a rough sort of feeling. I don't get the sense like that they're violent or going to be rough with you. I just get the sense that they're like wanting to, as one viewer put it, rip off the Band-Aid. You know, that's a little bit, it's a little bit like a wild, you know, we've seen a loose cannon energy come through with them before, but this is more than that. This is like I've not seen them be before. With the Three of Cups, yeah, this is, you're gonna see some divorces in this. I know we're already starting to see them. I've gotten a couple of notes where people are have found out that their person is in the process of a divorce or has become divorced, and it's a little bit like maybe their status changes or something that happens on social media. I don't get the sense that you even really get the memo. I feel like there is so much going on intensely in there, that they're moving a million miles an hour when they come by and want to swoop you up. But they've got to keep quiet about something to keep something safe up here. And there's a sense of them just really wanting to move into something new. Okay, so let's see what all I got here. Okay. So what it comes down to is we've got a Page of Wands. That one came back out. And the Ace of Cups. This Ace of Cups is, if nothing, overflowing. It's extremely overflowing, and with the Page of Wands, there's this sense of a glow and a feeling of it's never been like this before. The thing that I would also say is it wouldn't remain like this. Whatever we're seeing here is relatively temporary. There's a lot of fast moving energy here that doesn't necessarily feel consistent. And so that is, we got to look a little bit more deeply into this because they are wanting to come and take you away, not in a kidnappy sort of way, but in a riding off into the sunset sort of way. And they're talking about breaking ties in some way with their third party and starting on a new path. But right now, there's a roadblock, there's a need to remain quiet. We got to look a little bit more into this new path that they want to take, in particular, what they want to do with you when we get into this, because it feels like there's roads converging here, but it feels like, oddly, more than just a couple of roads. So I feel like we might look into that when we get into the you portion because it's roads converging with you. So I'm going to do the you portion here and then I'm going to go to the extended. So the link is just below in the description of the video. And we're going to look at what this really, this is a lot of emotion. This is an effusive amount of energy kind of that has them wanting to do what they want to do. So let's look a little bit more deeply into this wanting to take you away from all this, start something new, and why they have to be so quiet about it right now. So that's what we'll do when we get into the extended. So a little bit more into kind of what they're thinking, a little bit more into the divine masculine messages. For now, let's go ahead and look into you and see what kinds of messages want to come out as far as where you need to be focused at this time. Okay, so the first thing that comes out here is the Knight of Swords. Look for the things that are causing you fear. Knight of Swords is a card of fear, but it's also the thing that stops you from like having that dragon slayer sort of energy. So what is it that's getting in the way for you? Because there's something here that feels like a thin wall that you are going to be able to break through, and it's going to enable you to be able to do something that you've not historically done. A lot of change coming about, change being brought about. Some of it's positive and enjoyable, some of it is less so. There is definitely a sense of you trying to figure out where you stand in this changing energy, where you may not even be aware of some of the energy that's coming out of left field from your person over here. Queen of Wands here in the reverse. This one's interesting. So the Queen of Wands, this is about making sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but that really is up for debate, especially because it feels like there's not enough information over here. So it's about understanding why you're doing what you're doing. And I know I say that sometimes, but it's partially because if you don't have all the answers, then you need to understand where you started, so that if you then get new information, you're able to make the right types of adjustments, whatever that means for your situation. So this is about attention, attention to detail, gathering information about situations that you're going to be in the middle of and navigating, because you will already have had to pick a direction. So that's kind of, where does that information come from? You know, I think in one of the recent readings we saw that it could potentially be coming from someone that is around you. We have the Sun here. You're going to catapult into happiness, and in an unexpected way, almost so happy that you feel a little bit guilty for feeling this happy. I don't know. That's interesting. Feels a little bit guilty for being as happy as you are. You have the Wheel of Fortune in the reverse. It's so happy. It's going to, this is something that you thought maybe you would never do. It's going to take your mind off of your growth for a little bit. So not to be confused with this Wheel of Fortune that's in the upright over here, where there is most assuredly change going on. This Wheel of Fortune in the reverse shows you getting into a place where you forget to pay attention to the world around you for a short time. So there's some kind of happiness coming that you're going to get confused like about where you stand, because this is such a, there's a lot of emotion. So I'm curious about if it's coming from this person or somewhere else. They dropped. Okay. And I dropped another one. Oh, they keep being face down. Sometimes I drop them and they're face up, and they're the ones I'm going to use. Oh, Three of Swords. You're going to witness some pain. Your perspective on it is very different because of what you've recently experienced. I think this is associated with like you're seeing a situation that parallels your own over here. And I feel like this is almost like you're standing beside someone else who's going through it, but they're earlier in the process maybe. Or they're in a different perspective in the process. But this is somebody who has, yeah, Knight of Swords. This is somebody that comes in and has some way to help you and is inclined to help you, feels connected to you. This person feels connected to you and does have that Dragon Slayer energy. So meanwhile, you're over here. This is maybe why you're so well matched. This is a sense of lacking that Dragon Slayer energy because something is scaring you. Something creates fear in you, and it has to do with not understanding the direction something is going. But here's somebody over here is like, look, I don't care. I'm just gonna come in and save the day. There's a very save the day sort of vibe with this. And what's interesting is like you love it. There's with the sun there. Oops, let's put those back. With the sun there, there's a strong, strong feeling of happiness. And finally, this is interesting. I wonder if this is one of those soulmates that we saw earlier on coming in. And I got a note yesterday that said, hey, how come we don't hear about the soulmate anymore? And I haven't had a chance to respond, but I almost wrote back, well, as soon as it shows up in the readings, I'll be happy to talk about it. Or maybe we should specifically look into it. And maybe that's what we do when we get into the extended, but maybe we don't have to because there's something coming out about it right now. So we'll see. But it feels like this is very positive energy. Somebody comes in and like saves the day. But at the same time as this energy is going on, yeah, I'm curious about that. So we've got the High Priestess in the reverse. Oh, this is the coming out of the woodwork card right here. That's what that feels like. It feels like maybe this is somebody new that's creating a lot of happiness, and just this is a lot of doing the right things, but it's not a lot of being the same person as this. So it's about you have a lot of energy. This person suddenly is saying, and for some of you, I'm walking away from this third party. I'm getting a divorce, whatever that looks like. And I want to do something and take you away from all this, but honestly can't talk about it yet. And then you've got somebody over here that's like, yeah, I'll talk about it and I'll come and take you. And I mean, there's an interesting thing here with this Wheel of Fortune in the reverse. There is a sense of you almost putting some of your lessons on hold, but with the Temperance card here, it's because you're being held up by someone else's balance. So just be aware that that may be a little bit artificial, but the thing is, it may be a little bit magical. It feels a little bit like something that you have done for people in the past, where you've made them feel so safe that they didn't feel like they needed to hold themselves up. So this is somebody holding you up that way. Just remember that you'll sometimes need to stand on your own 2 feet. But it's also a moment of, so this is development, and this is a bond, a new bond that appears to be making itself known. So interesting. I feel like this is a little bit different, and it has that clean slate feel to it. So there's not as much pushing a boulder up a hill kind of as you have with this other experience with your Divine Masculine. Thing about the Divine Masculine is that feels like a very natural sort of connection. And this one, you're going to realize it, but not immediately. It doesn't feel like you immediately recognize this bond, but you do recognize being saved. With the Seven of Pentacles, the development in this for you is that ability to accept the help that's coming from this person. So I think we are going to have to look at this when we get into the extended. So half of the extended is going to be about what is happening with your person wanting to come and take you away and all of that. And then the other part of the extended is going to be about you and this new energy that's coming in. So let's take a look at that. The link will be down below. And if you want to join as a member, the link is down below that. I've got my email and personal reading information down there in the event that you need it. So I will see you hopefully in the extended in a moment. And if not, I'll see you again in the next reading.